We don't serve your kind at the counter, boy. There's a window out back.
The black man in the worn flannel didn't move. The white shift manager was already smiling, the kind of smile a small man puts on when he thinks he's caught a bigger one. 3 white customers near booth 6 watched without watching. A line cook in the back let out one short laugh. Nobody at the counter offered the man a stool. He sat down anyway. He ordered breakfast.
2 country sausage biscuits, fresh, side of gravy.
The manager's smile thinned. The plate came out heavy. Steam rose. He took one bite, one chew. A pale larva moved on his napkin. His elbow hit a tray. A cloud of flour rose, settled, and his face, hairline to jaw, both sides, even his eyelashes, went completely white. He had been their boss for 16 months. Nobody knew yet. The Magnolia Morning Bakehouse on the east side of Birmingham opened its doors at 6 every morning, and at 6:28 on a Wednesday in late August, a weathered red pickup truck pulled into the lot. The man who stepped out was 48 years old, flannel shirt, jeans softened at the knees, work boots that had seen real work, a ball cap pulled low. He could have been a contractor stopping in before a job. He could have been somebody's granddaddy on his way to fish the Cahaba. He was neither. He was Otis Lawrence, and he had owned the company that owned this building for 16 months. Nobody inside was going to know that for another 2 hours. He walked in alone, no assistants, no phone in his hand, no laptop bag. The bell above the door rang once and the smell hit him. Biscuits coming out of the oven, golden tops dusted heavy with flour, the smell of his grandfather's kitchen in 1968. And underneath that smell, faint, almost hidden under cinnamon and pepper, something sour. Something wet. Something that did not belong in a bakery at 6 in the morning. He took booth 7. The booth had a clear sight line to the kitchen pass-through. He ordered coffee. Just coffee. The shift manager was a white man in his late 30s named Donnie Pike. Donnie Pike came over to the booth smiling and said, "You sure I can't tempt you with a biscuit, partner? They just came out." "Just enjoying the coffee," Otis said. "Thank you, sir." Donnie went back behind the counter. He glanced at booth 7. 12 minutes later, he glanced at booth 7 again. 8 minutes after that, a third time. The white retiree in booth 6 had already been refilled twice and not looked at once. Otis filed that. At the prep station behind the kitchen pass-through, a black woman in her late 40s named Loretta Hayes was breaking down a case of sausage. Loretta had worked in this building for 11 years. She had also, for the last 4 months, been quietly photographing the inside of the back storage cooler with her cell phone. 6 photographs. Dates burned into the corners. April through August. She kept the phone in her apron pocket. She kept a small brass key on a yellow ribbon in her shoe. Loretta looked up once and saw the man at booth 7. He was watching the kitchen pass-through. Not the menu, not the door. The pass-through. She set down the sausage and turned to a coworker. "Booth 7, she said low. "Watch him. He ain't here for breakfast." The coworker, a 17-year-old line cook named Junie Mosley, glanced over and shrugged. Junie was biracial, quiet, and had been carrying 6 weeks of voice memos in the depths of her phone. Recordings of Donnie Pike's morning huddles, where he told the kitchen what to do about the smell coming out of the back. Junie had not sent the recordings to anyone. Rent was due on the 1st. A line cook named Wallace slid another full sheet tray of biscuits onto the cooling rack 3 feet behind the front counter. The rack held 24 biscuits. The flour dusted on top was so heavy that a few specks rose into the air every time the swing door from the kitchen opened. A wall thermometer near the cooler read 41 degrees. Someone had taped over the dial and pushed the slider up. A wall calendar above the time clock had a red line drawn through every Tuesday since April. A new hire was getting the orientation tour. The trainer, an older woman, said cheerfully, "And that back door right there is dry storage. Don't go in there. Don't even ask. That's a Mr. Halloran rule." The new hire said, "Who's Mr. Halloran?" The trainer said, "Mr. Halloran is the man who decides if you keep your hours." Otis Lawrence, in booth 7, holding his coffee with both hands, did not turn his head, but he heard. Loretta passed Junie at the prep station and said quietly, "Don't go near the back cooler. Just don't." Junie nodded the way a girl nods at a thing she already knew. The brass padlock on the storage door caught the low fluorescent light. It looked old. It looked like it belonged to somebody who didn't trust the people they paid. At the counter, Donnie Pike laughed at his own joke and watched booth 7 a fourth time. At 7:15, the bell above the front door rang, and a young black woman walked in with a 3-year-old on her hip. The little girl was small for her age. Soft cornrows, pink leggings. She had her arms around her mother's neck and her face buried in her mother's collar like she was trying to disappear into it. The mother's name was Sherelle Whitman. She had been in this diner exactly one time before, 8 days earlier. She had ordered a country sausage biscuit for her daughter to share. 2 days after that, her daughter had been admitted to Children's of Alabama with a fever of 103 and a stomach that would not hold anything down for 72 hours. Sherelle Whitman walked past Otis Lawrence's booth. She did not see him. She walked to the front counter and asked for the manager. Donnie Pike came out smiling. Then he saw who was asking. The smile did something small and ugly at the corners. "Help you, ma'am?" Sherelle pulled a folded receipt from her purse. Her hand was steady. Her voice was not loud, but it was not quiet either. "I was here last Tuesday. My daughter ate one of your biscuits. She was in the hospital from Thursday to Sunday. I'd like to know what was in the food I bought from you." Donnie did not sit down. He did not write anything. He did not call to the kitchen. He listened for 40 seconds with the patience of a man checking a clock. Then he reached behind the counter and produced a little square of paper. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm sure your daughter's fine now. We appreciate your understanding. Here's a $5 voucher for your trouble, good for 30 days. Sherelle stared at the voucher. "My daughter spent 3 days on an IV." "Ma'am." 2 booths over, an older black woman set down her coffee. She was a stranger to Sherelle. She leaned over the booth divider and said clearly, loud enough for the front of the room to hear, "Honey, make him write it down. Make him sign it." Donnie's smile thinned. "Ma'am, this is becoming a disturbance. I'm going to have to ask you to take that voucher and step outside. We've got a rush starting. My daughter is 3 years old." "Ma'am, if you don't lower your voice, I'm going to call the police." The room got quiet. The kind of quiet a southern dining room gets when a white man says the police to a black woman holding a child. Loretta Hayes, behind the prep window, set down the knife she was holding. Wallace, at the line, stopped moving entirely. Even Junie, 17 years old, looked up. In booth 7, Otis Lawrence watched Sherelle Whitman's hand close around the $5 voucher. He watched her shoulders go in. He watched her turn, daughter still on her hip, and walk back toward the front door past a wall of customers who had decided not to look up from their plates. The little girl in pink leggings was still staring at her mother's collar. Sherelle Whitman walked past booth 7. Otis Lawrence said nothing. He nodded at her once. Slow. Sherelle Whitman, who had just been threatened with the police in a place where she had been a paying customer, looked at this stranger in flannel, this black man in a borrowed-looking ball cap sitting alone at a booth, and nodded back. One small recognition. 2 people the room had just decided didn't matter. Then she walked out. The bell above the door rang once. The front of the diner went back to chewing. Otis Lawrence picked up his coffee. His hand was steady, but it did not bring the cup to his mouth right away. It hovered. He set the cup down again. From the next stool, Loretta Hayes, passing through the dining room with a fresh pot, said, low, almost to herself, but inside earshot of his booth, "You know, last week a white man in a ball cap complained the coffee was cold. Mr. Halloran himself called him personally, comped his whole month." She kept walking. Otis Lawrence sat at booth 7 and listened to the bell on the front door not ring again. 3 customer complaints had been deleted from the company portal in the last 6 weeks, all 3 from women of color. He had a printed copy of every one of them in the glove box of the truck. He stood up. Otis Lawrence walked from booth 7 to a stool at the front counter. It was a deliberate move. The booth had given him a view of the kitchen. The counter would give him the manager. The counter would give him the cooling rack 3 feet behind his shoulder, where the second sheet tray of biscuits had just been slid in, flour dust still settling like fine snow. The counter would put his face in front of every other customer in the room. He sat down. The white retiree in booth 6 glanced at him, then glanced again. A black man at the counter in flannel and a ball cap. The retiree went back to his eggs. Donnie Pike came over with the polite, automatic smile he gave first-time customers and did not give twice. "What can I get you, sir?" Otis pulled a laminated index card out of his wallet and set it on the counter beside his coffee. The card was soft at the edges. The ink had faded once and been gone over with a fine pen. The handwriting was not his. It was looped, careful, old. 4 ingredients listed in a column, a note at the bottom. Buttermilk biscuit. Feed people the way you'd feed your own child. Pop, 1968. 3 seats down at the counter, an older white woman in an off-duty server's apron leaned over. Her name was May Pritchard. She had worked in this diner since 1979, longer than anyone alive on the payroll. She read the card upside down, a skill servers learn, and said, "Pop's recipe? Lord, I haven't seen the original card in 6 years. Where'd you get that?" Otis smiled and said, "Family." May nodded slowly. She studied his face for a beat longer than was comfortable. Then she went back to her crossword. Donnie Pike was waiting. Otis said, "I'll have 2 country sausage biscuits, please, fresh, and a side of gravy." He said it evenly. He did not look at Donnie. He looked at the menu like he had to decide. The order: 2 country sausage biscuits, fresh, side of gravy, passed 12 feet through the air to the kitchen pass-through. The line cook, Wallace, called it back. 2 country, fresh, gravy. Donnie Pike turned away to ring it up. His eyes flicked to the kitchen, then to booth 7, empty now, then to the man at his counter. The man at his counter who had moved closer. The man who had been watching the pass-through for 40 minutes. The man with a recipe card from 1968 on the counter beside his coffee. Donnie did not smile. In the kitchen, Wallace pulled 2 biscuits off the cooling rack, the rack 3 feet behind Otis's shoulder. He split each one. He laid the sausage patty in. He sliced. He plated. He set a small white ceramic bowl of cream sausage gravy on the side. Steam came off both. Loretta Hayes, washing her hands at the prep sink, watched Wallace's hands the entire time. The plate was sealed with a paper liner. The plate was passed through the window. Otis picked up his fork. May Pritchard, 3 seats down, stopped working her crossword. Otis said, almost too quietly to be heard, "Granddad, let's see what they did to your name." He cut the corner of the top biscuit. Sausage steam rose. He brought the fork to his mouth. He chewed once. Donnie Pike, 15 feet away, was already smiling at the next customer. Wrong texture, wrong heat under the spice. Something hard between his back teeth. Otis Lawrence did not panic. He did not jerk. He raised the napkin to his lips, slow and casual, the way a man wipes a corner. He spit the bite into the napkin. He folded the napkin in his palm. He opened it. On the white linen, curling on itself, alive, a single pale larva. 1 bite, 1 chew, 1 larva. His body reacted before his mind did. A short, hard, involuntary jolt, the jolt a man's nervous system makes when it decides faster than he does. His elbow swept the counter. The white ceramic gravy bowl tipped and emptied. Cream sausage gravy hit the plate, the napkin, the front of his flannel. The plate, jarred, tilted upward, and as he half rose in reflex, his right shoulder caught the edge of the cooling rack 3 feet behind him. The rack the kitchen had just slid in. A full sheet tray of 24 fresh-baked biscuits, dusted heavy with the same flour Pop had used in 1968. The tray jumped. A cloud of flour rose into the air. Not a small cloud, the kind that rises off 24 biscuits at once. It met the gravy spray mid-air. It hung for one impossible second. Then it settled, white and slow, across his hands, his sleeve, his chest, his collar, his hair, and his face. Hairline to jaw, both sides, even his eyelashes. 3 seconds later, Otis Lawrence sat at the front counter of his own restaurant with his grandfather's recipe in his pocket, a larva on a napkin in front of him, and his face gone completely white. Not half, not partial, completely. One bite had done it. May Pritchard set her coffee cup down. She did not speak. She was looking at him the way a person looks at something they will be telling for the rest of their life. A man in booth 4 said it for her. He said it low, almost reverent, the words landing in the silence like a stone in still water. Lord. His face just went completely white. The phrase carried. 2 phones came up. A teenager, 3 stools down, typed it into her notes app without thinking. May Pritchard would later repeat it to a reporter. The reporter would print it. By Friday morning, 3 local stations and 1 national wire would carry that exact sentence under a photo of a black man at a diner counter, flour from hairline to jaw, holding a folded napkin. But that was Friday. This was Wednesday. Otis counted the customers eating the same biscuit. 14. One of them was a child. He had taken 1 bite. He had already swallowed. He did not move for 3 more seconds. He did not need to. 1 bite had told him everything. The second biscuit on his plate stayed untouched, exactly as it had been served. He left it there. He stood up, calmly. He walked across the dining room, flour rising off his shoulders in fine drift, to a booth on the far side. A young black mother had just sat down with a toddler. Otis had seen the order go in. He knew what was coming. He bent at the booth and lifted the plate out of her 3-year-old's reach a half second before the child's hand closed on the biscuit. "Ma'am," he said, "kitchen called those back. Let me get you something fresh. Just a minute now." She thanked him. She did not know what he had done. He carried the plate to the counter. He set it down beside the napkin with the larva on it. He set his fork beside the napkin. He turned his head and said evenly to Donnie Pike, "I need to speak to whoever runs this kitchen. Now." Donnie was still smiling, but the smile was no longer attached to anything. "Sir, please, let's not make a scene." Donnie's eyes flicked across the flour on Otis's face, across the gravy on his cuff. The smile twitched. He almost let it out as a laugh. Otis said, "I just ate something that was alive. I'd like to see what I just ate." The room heard it. 3 more phones came up. Donnie rounded the counter. His hand went to Otis's elbow, gently, the way a small man tries to make a gentle thing look reasonable. "Sir, why don't we step outside and talk?" Loretta Hayes set down the coffee pot. She walked across the dining room. She was a black woman in an apron, 11 years on the line, and she walked between Donnie Pike and the man he was trying to escort out. She did not push Donnie. She did not raise her voice. She simply stood between them and said to Donnie in front of every customer present, "I'll take him to the back, Donnie. He has a right to see." It was the first time in 11 years she had used Donnie Pike's first name. The room held its breath. Donnie's face, pink, furious, calculating, could not find an answer for it. Behind them, May Pritchard quietly stood up from her stool. She walked to Otis's spot at the counter. She picked up the untouched second biscuit on its plate. She carried it 3 steps to the prep counter and set it down. Then she picked up a clean, inverted bowl from the stack of clean dishware and set the bowl over the biscuit. Sealed. May looked at Donnie. "This stays right here," she said. "This is what he ate." May was 69 years old and had been pouring coffee in this room since Otis Lawrence was in middle school. Donnie Pike did not stop her. May walked to the front door. She flipped the open sign to closed. She did not ask. She did not announce. She just did it. Loretta walked Otis past the front line, past the prep station, past the brass padlock on the back storage door, and Otis saw it up close for the first time. Fingerprints in the dust on top of it. Old polish. Wrong scratches. The scratches of someone who opened it in a hurry and did not care if it showed. Loretta walked him into the back hallway where the security cameras did not reach. Wallace, the line cook, stepped in front of Donnie when Donnie tried to follow. "Boss," Wallace said, "you should call Mr. Halloran. He's gonna want to be in on this." Donnie stared at him. Wallace stared back. Wallace was buying time. In the back hallway, Loretta stopped. She looked at Otis, at the flour still in his hair, in his eyebrows, on the shoulders of his flannel. She looked at the gravy still on his cuff. "You're not just a customer," she said. "No, ma'am." "Who are you?" Otis Lawrence took the ball cap off. He held it in both hands. "My name is Otis Lawrence. I own this company." Loretta Hayes absorbed it for 3 full seconds. Her face did not change. Her hand did not go to her mouth. She did not cry. She did not laugh. She reached into her apron pocket. She pulled out her phone. She turned the screen toward him. 6 photographs. 6 dated images of a refrigeration unit, frost dripping down its side. April, May, June, July, early August. Last Tuesday. "I have 11 years of evidence in my locker," she said. "Want to see it?" She walked him to the lockers at the end of the hall. Hers was second from the right. The drawing, taped to the front, was crayon on lined paper. "Mom is brave," in a child's hand. She opened it. Taped to the back wall on a yellow ribbon was a small brass key. "This unlocks the back room," she said. "They don't know I have a copy." The brass padlock came off in Otis Lawrence's hand at 8:11 in the morning. The key turned smooth. Someone had used it recently. Someone had used it a lot. The cooler door swung open and the smell pushed out into the hallway like something held back too long. Sweet rot. Strong cumin trying to cover it. Something colder and worse underneath. Otis turned his head once, breathed through his sleeve, and started photographing before he stepped inside. 800 pounds of meat. Frost on some boxes, slick on others. A wall thermometer reading 51 degrees that someone had pushed up on its slider with a strip of tape. A second thermometer in the back, untaped, untampered with, reading 58. Boxes labeled "Use by April 30th, still stacked under newer ones marked "Processed, August 12th. Otis photographed every label, every taped-up dial, every box. The flour was still in his hair. He had not wiped his face. He was busy. Loretta stood in the hall and watched him work without speaking. Junie Mosley came up behind her, phone in hand, breathing fast. Out front, Wallace was still buying time. Through the back hall door, they could hear Donnie Pike on his cell phone. "Mr. Halloran, sir, we got a situation. You better come down here." Over and over, increasingly wet. Otis stepped out of the cooler. He looked at Loretta. "Tell me what you have." Loretta opened her phone. Photo 1, April 22nd, the day the compressor failed. "I took this one because the floor was wet and Donnie wouldn't call corporate." Photo 2, same day, service ticket. Donnie wrote, "monitoring." He didn't call. Photo 3, May 4th. I sent corporate an email, auto-archived at the regional level, 48 minutes after I sent it. Photo 4, June 19th. I sent corporate another email. Same, auto-archived. Photo 5, July 11th. The dial tape. He started it that week. Photo 6, last Tuesday. The smell got bad enough that Donnie started telling the line to double the cumin. Otis listened. He did not interrupt. Loretta said, "I have one more thing." She pulled a folded paper from her apron pocket. "Last Friday, Donnie tried to get me to sign this. $200 in cash for medical assistance for my son, in exchange for what he called understanding around the backroom situation. I haven't signed it." She handed Otis the paper. He read it. It was a non-disclosure agreement. It had no corporate letterhead. It had been printed on the office printer behind the manager's desk. Junie stepped forward. "Mister, I have something too." Junie Mosley pressed play on her phone. Donnie Pike's voice filled the back hallway, tinny from the speaker, 6 weeks deep. "All right, listen. The manager smells, the meat smells, the gravy smells. Y'all know what to do. Hit it harder with the spice today. Smell got worse overnight. Y'all know what to do." Junie tapped a folder. 28 files, 6 weeks, every morning huddle. Junie said, "Mister, this is 6 weeks of my life. I was too scared to send it anywhere. Don't lose it." Otis took the phone in both hands. He held it like a man handed something sacred. "I won't, baby. I promise." Wallace came down the hallway. He had his own phone open. "Mr. Lawrence, sir, the man who's been coming in the alley at 6:15, off the books refrigeration tech. Manager pays him cash. Tells him not to file a service report. Texts on my phone. He sent a delivery of coolant to me by mistake last month." Wallace turned the phone. The text said, "Same time tomorrow, same envelope, no paper." Otis nodded once. His phone was already in his hand. He called the COO of Magnolia Morning Bakehouse. 3 rings. "Hold all 178, Otis said. "Hold them right now. I don't care what it costs. I want every store in this chain in a controlled close by 9:30. I want our internal compliance team executing the deployment plan we drew up in March. They're in 2 unmarked vans in a strip mall 4 miles from where I'm standing. Tell them they're a go." He hung up. He called the chief legal officer. "Subpoena every compressor work order, every inspection sticker, every voided customer complaint last 6 months. All 178 stores. Start with Birmingham East." He hung up. He looked at Loretta. "You didn't bring those leftovers home from a different store, did you?" Loretta's face did not move. "My son was in the hospital last Wednesday. He ate biscuit and gravy I brought home from this kitchen on Tuesday night. I didn't know what was in it." The bell above the front door rang. Brett Halloran had arrived. Brett Halloran walked into the dining room of the Magnolia Morning Bakehouse at 8:40 in the morning wearing a navy blazer, a pocket square, and the smile of a regional director who believed every problem in his region could be solved by him personally. He did not see Otis Lawrence. He walked straight to Donnie Pike at the counter, clapped him on the shoulder, and said in the carrying voice of a man who liked to be heard, "What's the situation, partner? Some old guy causing a problem?" The room heard it. 23 customers, 11 employees, 4 phones. Otis Lawrence stepped out of the back hallway. Flannel shirt, ball cap in his hand, flour still in his hair, gravy still drying on his cuff. He sat down on the counter. In this order: the highlighted compressor work order, Loretta's phone with the photographs open, Junie's phone with the voice memo queued, the unsigned NDA, the napkin with the original larva, the untouched second biscuit still under its inverted bowl, and Sherelle Whitman's $5 voucher. Then he took one step forward, hands in pockets, and said quietly, "Mr. Halloran." Brett Halloran turned. He looked at the man in flannel. The smile on his face was reflexive, the smile he gave any unfamiliar customer he was about to redirect. "Sir, I'm sorry. Do I know you?" Otis Lawrence said, "We've met. Twice." The smile held. I signed your bonus letter last quarter. You shook my hand at the regional summit in May. You looked me in the face and called me sir. Then, you called me old guy just now. The smile fell off Brett Halloran's face like something physical. His skin, pink, well-fed, smiling, drained. The color left him from the temples down. His mouth opened, then closed. May Pritchard, watching from the door, let out one short laugh, not amused, just amazed. Lord, she said, low. Now his face is going completely white. 2 phones in the room zoomed in. The image the morning had earned 90 minutes earlier. A black man at a diner counter, face white as flour, paid back a second time on a different face. 2 faces, one black, one white. Both drained by the same kitchen on the same morning. Otis Lawrence turned to the dining room. My name is Otis Lawrence. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Magnolia Morning Bakehouse. I have been sitting at booth 7 since 6:28 this morning. I came here on a hunch. I came here because 3 customer complaints from this store were deleted from our company portal in the last 6 weeks. All 3 came from women of color. I came here because nobody who flags a problem in this company should be erased from the record of having flagged it. I ordered breakfast this morning. I took one. He picked up the second biscuit from under its inverted bowl. He held it up at counter level, flour drifting from his fingers. 23 customers and 4 phones watching, and split it open with his bare hands. The sausage patty separated. 2 pale larvae moved inside it. The room made the sound a room makes when 23 people inhale at once. Otis held the open biscuit out at arm's length so every customer could see it. He did not raise his voice. That was in the first one. That was what one bite was. There are 14 of these served in this dining room every breakfast hour. There are 78 stores in this company that received meat from the same supplier this month. He set the biscuit down. Mr. Halloran approved deferral of the compressor service order on this store on April 22nd. He approved the same deferral with the same off-the-books refrigeration tech in 23 other stores in his region. He took a 4% cut from the tech on each of those deferrals. I have the bank records on the laptop in my truck. He told the kitchen to double the spice to cover the smell. He told the kitchen to ignore complaints from customers who looked like the women whose complaints he had personally deleted. He cut my best veteran's hours from 40 to 24 when she filed her first email. And he tried to buy her silence last week with $200 and a non-disclosure agreement printed on the back office printer. Brett Halloran said, "That is a lie." Otis Lawrence ignored him. I'm asking every customer who has eaten breakfast in this dining room in the last 48 hours to please remain in your seat for 1 hour. A medical team is in the parking lot. A compliance team is here too. Both have already been deployed to all 178 Magnolia Morning Bakehouse locations as of 7 minutes ago. I am not asking for permission. I am asking for your forgiveness. He turned to Donnie Pike. You are suspended. Walk to the prep counter. Wait there. He turned to the front door. One last thing. He had asked his assistant to dial Sherelle Whitman's number on the way down the hallway. She walked through the door 11 minutes after he asked. She did not know what was coming. He gave her back her $5 voucher inside an envelope. The envelope contained a handwritten apology and a check that covered 3 years of her daughter's pediatric bills. He did not give a speech. She stood in the dining room for a long second. Her daughter on her hip looked at the man in the flannel shirt and reached for him. The mother did not stop her. The little girl's hand touched Otis Lawrence's flour-dusted sleeve. Sherelle Whitman said to him, to the room, "Thank you for listening." May Pritchard walked up to Otis and put her hand on his arm. I knew there was something different in your eyes, she said. I just didn't know what. Brett Halloran, color returning to his face in mottled patches, smiled, the smile of a man who still thought he could win, and said quietly, You think this stops with me? Otis Lawrence looked at him. The room held its breath. Otis Lawrence said, "It doesn't stop with you. It starts with you." He walked to the prep counter and set up a command post. Laptop, 3 phones, a yellow legal pad. He plugged the laptop into the back office printer through a cable Loretta found him in a drawer. The first thing the printer spat out was a 1-page memo titled, "Customer Feedback Portal, Revocation of Regional Override." He signed it. He emailed it. It went to 178 store-level tablets in a single batch at 8:53. His phone rang. 2 of his board directors. He put them on speakerphone. He let the dining room hear. "Bryant." They used the wrong name, the name that was on the charity board roster, not the company. "Otis, you cannot run this company by feeling. You're better than that." Otis said, "I'm running it by evidence. I'm running it the way my grandfather ran it in 1968 when the diner across the street wouldn't serve him. The Coleman Bauer private equity sale is dead as of right now. Our outside counsel is sending the termination notice to their fund this morning. Call your no confidence vote. Every employee in this company gets to read the answer in the morning." He hung up. The dining room did not breathe. Wallace, the line cook, said quietly, "Damn." Otis turned to face the room. He had finally rinsed the flour off his face at the prep sink. Loretta had handed him a clean towel without comment. His skin was his own again. He held the laminated 1968 recipe card in his right hand and the highlighted compressor work order in his left. "I'm going to read you what we are doing. I'm reading it in this dining room because I want it to be real. I want the record of when it became real to be the morning a black mother walked out of this room with a $5 voucher and a child on her hip. Number 1, Compressor Sentinel Program. Every refrigeration unit across all 178 stores reports temperature data to a centralized monitoring system within 30 days. Failures escalate to corporate within 4 hours, not 4 months. Number 2, Direct Worker Channel. Every employee in this company receives a confidential reporting line that bypasses regional management entirely. Reports are reviewed within 72 hours by a 3-person ethics panel that does not report to operations. Number 3, Inspection Sticker Verification. Every signed inspection sticker is cross-checked against the inspector's own digital log within 24 hours. Forged signatures trigger automatic referral to the State Attorney General's office. Number 4, Hour Cut Audit. Any employee whose hours drop more than 20% within 30 days of filing a complaint triggers an automatic case review at corporate, retroactive to January. Number 5, Customer Complaint Log. Customer complaints can no longer be deleted at the store or regional level. Period. Only a chief-level officer can resolve a complaint, and resolution is published publicly each quarter. Number 6. He paused. He looked at Loretta. This last one has a name. The Hayes Standard. Any employee with 5 or more years of service who has documented a safety concern in writing receives the right to escalate directly to the office of the CEO. We are naming it for the woman who walked between Mr. Pike and me an hour ago, in front of you. Mrs. Loretta Hayes. 11 years on this line, 6 photographs in her phone, 2 emails in her sent folder, and 1 brass key in her shoe. Loretta did not cry. She did not nod. She did not say thank you. She said quietly, "I'd like the rest of the day to think about it. I haven't been allowed to think on company time in 4 months." Otis said, "Take a week." He turned to Junie. "Miss Mosley, there is a paid scholarship pathway in the apprenticeship program. It covers books, fees, transportation, housing, and a livable wage during enrollment. I'd like to enroll you in it before lunch," Junie cried. Not from relief, from being asked. He turned to Wallace. "Mr. Wallace, the direct worker channel needs a lead trainer, somebody who can take it store by store in the South, somebody who knew the warning signs before management did. I'd like that to be you." Wallace nodded once. He did not say anything. He did not need to. Otis turned to May. "Mrs. Pritchard, you ran this dining room for 40 minutes this morning without anyone authorizing you to. You did it correctly. Effective immediately, you are interim store lead. The position is yours permanently if you want it." May said, "I'll take it, on the condition that you let me hire my own crew. Some of these kids out here got run off by Donnie over the last 2 years. I want them back." Otis said, "Done." He turned to Brett Halloran. He did not gloat. He did not raise his voice. He turned the laptop screen around slowly and let it sit between them on the prep counter. Bank records. 23 deferral approvals. 23 matching wire transfers from a contractor named Ridgeline Refrigeration LLC into a Cayman Islands holding account in Brett Halloran's mother-in-law's name. He let it sit for 10 seconds without speaking. Then he said, "Mr. Halloran, the federal complaint goes in this afternoon. You may have your attorney call mine. Until then, you are escorted off this property. Your access to every Magnolia Morning system terminates as of 9:18 this morning. Your bonus checks for the last 6 quarters are clawed back in full to fund the settlement pool. The pool will distribute first to the families of every customer who was hospitalized after eating a Magnolia Morning product since April." Mrs. Whitman's daughter is the second name on it. Brett Halloran said nothing. 2 off-duty Birmingham police officers eating breakfast in booth 9 stood up. They had been there since 6:52. They had heard the entire morning. They walked Brett Halloran out. He did not look back. Sherelle Whitman, in a booth near the window with her daughter on her lap, watched him go. The little girl in pink leggings waved at the back of his blazer. Nobody told her not to. The dining room exhaled. May Pritchard, the new store lead, walked over to Sherelle Whitman's booth carrying 2 fresh sealed pastries from a kitchen that had been cleared and re-inspected in the last 45 minutes. She set them down. She said, "On the house, baby, as long as I run this room." The bell above the door rang once. Loretta Hayes flipped the open sign back to open. The brass padlock from the storage door was sitting on the prep counter. Otis Lawrence picked it up. He held it in his hand for a moment, weighing it. He did not put it back on the door. He set it down beside his grandfather's recipe card. 2 pieces of paper, 1 piece of brass. 3 definitions of the company. 2 weeks later, the same diner held the same morning rush. The biscuits came out at 6. The smell was clean. The cooler hummed at 38 degrees on a dial nobody had touched. Otis Lawrence was washing dishes. He had on a gray apron and a ball cap. He had not announced he was coming. He had walked in at 5:45, said good morning to the new cooks, and asked May if she needed a hand on the line. May had pointed him to the dish pit. 2 new hires, 18, 19 years old, did not recognize him. They thought he was a friend of May's husband. He liked it. Loretta Hayes carried her son into the diner at 10:15. He was 8 years old. His name was Marcus, which made Loretta laugh because she had been making Otis laugh about that for a week, and he walked under his own power for the first time in 3 weeks. Otis dried his hands. He did not stand up. He went to one knee on the kitchen floor so the boy could see him at eye level. He held out his hand. The boy shook it like a man. "Mister," Marcus said, "Mama says you fixed the kitchen." Otis said, "Your mama fixed the kitchen. I just opened a door she'd been holding for 4 months." Loretta did not cry. She tucked a folded crayon drawing into her apron pocket, a new drawing made the night before by a son with strength enough to hold a crayon. The drawing was a magnolia flower. Otis asked if he could have a copy. Loretta said no. She said her son was going to draw a fresh one for his office. Junie Mosley came in at noon with a piece of paper in a plastic sleeve. Her GED. She had taken the exam the previous Saturday. She had passed it on the first try with a math score that made her mother cry on the phone. May pinned the GED to the wall above the time clock with the same thumbtack she had used in 1979 to pin up her own daughter's first paycheck. Wallace was already on the road. The direct worker channel rollout had started in Atlanta and was working its way west. 16 kitchen workers had attended his first training session in the back room of a Magnolia Morning in Tuscaloosa. It was the first time most of them had been formally invited to learn how to escalate a safety concern over the head of their store manager. One of them had cried. None of them had been written up for attending. The brass padlock from the back storage door sat on a small wooden plaque in the back hallway now. Junie had hand-painted the plaque the week before. The engraving underneath the padlock read, August 27th, we learned. Above it, on a separate sign painted in the same hand, in the same letters, this door stays open. The original 1968 recipe card was framed in every Magnolia Morning kitchen across the chain by the end of the second week. The full text, including the line nobody at corporate had ever read out loud. Feed people the way you'd feed your own child. Above every kitchen door, the reprinted All Welcome sign. On Friday morning, 3 weeks to the day after Sherelle Whitman walked out with a $5 voucher, Loretta Hayes carried a folded newspaper into the back office. She laid it on the prep counter, headline up, in front of Otis Lawrence, and waited for him to look down. The Birmingham Post-Herald. Above the fold. A photograph. A black man in a flannel shirt at a diner counter, flour from hairline to jaw, holding a folded napkin. The photograph had been pulled from the social media account of a customer who had been in booth 4 that morning. Across the top of the page, set in heavy black type, Undercover black boss orders breakfast. 1 bite later, his face goes completely white. Otis looked at it for a long moment. He looked at the photograph. He looked at the line of words. He did not smile. Loretta watched him. May sold them the line, she said. It's a good line, he answered. It's the truth, she said back. 1 bite. Truth sells. He folded the paper. He set it next to his grandfather's recipe card. 2 pieces of paper, 2 definitions of the company. A reporter called Loretta that afternoon and asked her how it felt to have a national kitchen safety standard named after her. She said, "It feels like 11 years." She hung up. She went back to the line. 1 year, same diner, same morning, 6:30. The brass plaque caught the morning light through the front window. August 27th, we learned. Below it, framed, the front page of the Birmingham Post-Herald. Beside that, framed, the child's crayon drawing of a magnolia flower. 3 new hires laughed at a joke in the back. A printed copy of the Hayes Standard was taped above the time clock, edges already softened from a year of fingers brushing past it. The 1968 recipe card was framed on the kitchen wall, full text visible. Feed people the way you'd feed your own child. Above the kitchen door, the reprinted All Welcome sign. A black man in a worn ball cap and a gray apron was bussing tables at the front of the room. Nobody recognized him. He liked that. Loretta Hayes, in the National Director of Kitchen Safety windbreaker she had finally agreed to wear after 8 months of refusing, walked to the front door. She flipped the sign from closed to open. Morning light hit the brass plaque. Light hit the framed newspaper. Light hit the magnolia drawing. The bell above the door rang once. Sherelle Whitman walked in with her daughter. The little girl was 4 now. Pink leggings, the same pink leggings almost. They were Sherelle's youngest cousins now, and the little girl had grown into them. The girl looked across the dining room and saw the man in the apron bussing tables. She waved. He waved back. Sherelle ordered 2 country sausage biscuits, fresh, side of gravy. May Pritchard behind the counter brought them out herself. The little girl took the first bite. She chewed once. She smiled. Near the front entrance, smaller than the menu board, easy to miss, hung a new sign in hand-painted letters. If you see something wrong here, you can tell us. We will listen. O.L. A small text card hung beside it, the length of a place setting. The kind of card a person reads while waiting for a table. If you've ever stood in a kitchen, an office, a stockroom, or a classroom and seen something wrong, and stayed quiet because you couldn't afford to be brave, leave one word in the comments. Just one. The thing you saw. We will read every one. Sometimes the loudest thing a person can do is finally say it out loud. Loretta waited 11 years to say hers. You don't have to wait that long.
You know, what stayed with me longest after hearing this story? It wasn't the lover on the napkin. It wasn't even the moment his face went white. It was the $5 voucher. Because the voucher told me something I can't stop thinking about. A man with cold coffee got a free month of meals. A mother with a hospital child got $5 and a treat. Same restaurant, same morning, same manager. That's it right there. That's not a kitchen problem. That's a whole house problem. And here's what gets me. Loretta saw it. For 11 years, she had photos, emails, a key in her shoe. She wasn't waiting to be rescued. She was waiting for someone with power to walk in and listen. I think most of us know a Loretta. Maybe in your own building, maybe in your own family, maybe we are one. Somebody quiet who notices everything, who keeps a folder, who takes photos, who doesn't say a word because rent is due on the first. The kids need shoes, and nobody upstairs have ever once asked them what they saw. The bravest thing in the dinner wasn't a man taking one bite. It was a woman who'd been holding evidence for 4 months and didn't flinch when somebody finally asked. So, before you go, tell me one thing in the comment, just one word. The thing you saw at the job, at the school, in a room where you couldn't afford to speak up. We read every comment on this channel, everyone, because Loretta waited 11 years. You don't have to.